2,000 or 1,000 British citizens don't just get up and leave to join ISIS from a vacuum. That just doesn't happen. They don't self-radicalize on the internet. There's a lot of myths in this industry, by the way, right? Self-radicalization on the internet. That doesn't, you don't just suddenly, 2,000 people, one day they look at the internet and they decide to go and chop off heads in Iraq and Syria. This has happened because for decades upon decades in the United Kingdom, across Europe and actually across the world, the Islamist ideology has been peddling its propaganda unchecked on the grassroots to a point now where the default form of expression for many young British Muslims is the caliphate. They romanticize the notion of the caliphate pretty much like idealistic young teenagers in the 60s romanticized the USSR and Soviet communism as the utopia. Many Muslims who are vocal against ISIS, if you were to interrogate them on what they think of the caliphate itself, they'd say to you, well, of course, it's a duty. Everyone believes in the caliphate. We just disagree with ISIS because, you know, they're enslaving Yazidi women. We want to create our own theocracy in our own way. If you're emerging from an atmosphere or milieu in which ideas or notions of this caliphate are romanticized, that's the norm, why be surprised when someone then suddenly decides to declare the caliphate? Of course, those of a younger generation to you, if that's all they've ever known, many of them, too many of them, will flock to join this caliphate that you've spent your entire life romanticizing. And so that's really the issue here. That's what's been going on. When I first started out with Hizb ut-Tahrir, and I joined at 16 years old, we used to stand outside mosques, distributing leaflets, proselytizing for our very politicized version of the religion. At around 17, 18 years old, a bearded religious man exited this mosque, you know, and just imagine what you're thinking now if I say bearded religious man, right? And the image that comes to you and your minds in 2015. Back then, he walked straight up to me and punched me in the face. He said, how dare you politicize our religion? And he punched me in the face. Now, fast forward to 2010, 2011, and I'm in Pakistan, trying to do the opposite, undo the damage that I played a role in, and I was punched again in the face. And this time, you know, I was knocked to the floor this time. The guy was an amateur boxer. And he punched me in the face and says, how dare you try and separate politics from our religion? But that's what's happened in the space of one lifetime. When we first started proselytizing for the caliphate when I was 16 years old, nobody had heard of the term, nobody knew what it meant.